The Colts come up short in week 4 against the Rams, 29-23 in overtime. But I got to tell you, the fact that they made it to overtime is wildly impressive when you look at how they were in the first half. Right. Overall, if you look at the completion percentage, Anthony Richardson looks like he didn't have a good game. I'd argue, there were a couple drops. There was one to Michael Pittman in the end zone that for some reason he moved his body like out of the way of the football. It was a perfect pass by Anthony Richardson. But when you look at the slow mo from the end zone view, you can see Michael Pittman move his body out of the way of the ball. Right. So there were some really good passes, really good passes by Anthony Richardson that just didn't get caught. Alec Pierce had one. Right. But overall, the story of this game comes down to that first half and how the Colts got absolutely dominated in every way in that first half. Offense, defense, special teams, it didn't matter. Colts just could not put anything together. Even when they were making plays on offense, there were penalties that would stop a drive, or they had the Anthony Richardson fumble that play. They were making that drive. They were making stuff happen, and then he fumbles, right? And in that first half, couldn't get the run game going at all. Zach Moss wasn't able to do anything in the first half. Pass game just wasn't getting it done. There was only 12 minutes of possession for the Colts. They ran like 15 plays or something crazy. They barely had the ball in the first half because they couldn't sustain drives. Also, the Rams had a lot of plays because they were sustaining drives. They kept their drives going. Overall, in this game, the Rams end up with 467 total yards. Colts end up with 329. And the per play average was actually more similar than you might think. It was 6 yards per play for the Rams and 5.7 yards per play for the Colts. Okay, and in the first half, the Colts got absolutely dominated in terms of first downs. That ended up getting closer to 27-19 Rams. In terms of third down, the Colts held the Rams to 6 of 15, where the Colts were only 3 of 10. And then fourth down, Rams were 1 for 1, where the Colts were 1 for 2. And the total amount of plays in this game ended up being 78 to 58. Okay, and the Rams had the extra possession in overtime with all those plays that got added into this. So kind of shows you the disparity of how the first half went and the second half went. The Colts completely dominated that second half, which is great, right? At the end of the day, you look at turnovers here and you look at penalties. There were 8 penalties by both teams. There were 2 sacks by both teams, and there were 1 turnover by both teams. But again, what this really comes down to, this whole game comes down to that first half. The time of possession, again, even with the Rams getting the ball in overtime and taking a few minutes, the time of possession was 39-46 to 24-25. So the Colts possessed the ball in the lot in the second half, and they made stuff happen with it, right? The Colts going into that game in the fourth quarter and overtime were outscoring opponents 30-5. Coming out of this game, that goes to 45-9 in fourth quarter in overtime over the first 4 games. So it's really good, but unfortunately, we're sitting at 2-2 now. Right, mistakes had us lose the Jaguars game. Right, if there aren't so many self-inflicted wounds in that game, maybe the Colts could win that one. If there weren't so many self-inflicted wounds in this game, maybe the Colts are able to win. Right, you also look at the 4th and 7 in the first half when the Colts are down. I think they were down either 14-0 or 17-0, looking to get some points, and they went for it on 4th and 7. If you kick a field goal right there, then by the end of the game, Colts have a 3-point advantage. Right. Also, Matt Gay missed a field goal. Brad Maher missed, I think, 2 field goals or 1 field goal. So, what a perfect game by either team. First half dominated by the Rams. Second half dominated by the Colts. The overall stats for the Colts in this game, you look at Anthony Richardson again, completion percentage, not great, but he did well in the second half. Ended up being 11 of 25, but had 200 passing yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. So only 11 completions, but 200 yards, which is really good. It means he was getting the ball downfield. And the thing that I really liked about this game is that pretty much all his completions were when he was on the move. And not only is he throwing on the run and putting the ball right on the money as he's throwing on the run, but he's also, like, as he's escaping the pocket, he's keeping his eyes downfield and keeping himself ready to throw the ball. And he's looking for people to be able to get open instead of trying to run it himself, which was something we would hope would happen as he continued to develop. I didn't expect that to happen this year. I certainly didn't expect it to happen within the first 4 games of his career. I thought he'd be more, okay, I'm escaping the pocket. I'm just going to go ahead and run and pick up, 5, 6, 7 yards here. He's doing a great job in his development. It's not perfect yet, but what we're seeing is great. Okay. Well, he ended up with 10 carries for 56 yards and a rushing touchdown also. So all in all, like everything in the second half was on Anthony Richardson's back, and he made it happen, which is vitally important as they continue to build this team around him. That's only going to get better, and he's only going to get better. Okay, because you look at the stats from everybody else. Zach Moss, 18 carries, 70 yards. Most of that damage was done in the second half when we were finally able to get something going in the run game. Drew Ogletree got everything he had was on one drive, 3 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown. Finally getting the ball in his hands, making plays, and I love that we're starting to include him. All right, Alec Pierce had 1 catch for 38, but it was a big catch to help us get down the field quickly there toward the beginning of the fourth quarter and help us get a touchdown on the board. Mo Alley Cox had 1 catch, 35 yards, and a touchdown. That was a great play by both him and Anthony Richardson. Josh Downs comes away with 2 catches, 34 yards. Kylan Granson, 2 for 24. Michael Pittman, 1 for 15. And Isaiah McKenzie, 1 for 6. And in this one, Julius Brents ends up with 9 tackles. He had the most solo tackles with 8. Zaire Franklin had 12 total. Julian Blackman, 9. Kenny Moore gets the interception in this game that helped the Colts build some momentum and be able to come back. And he had 8 tackles in this game. So overall, like, just not good enough. Just not good enough in this game. It wasn't terrible. What if they could do in the second half for a full game? They were one of the hardest teams in the league to stop. Right? They were making stuff happen consistently down the field in the second half. And it like the Colts in the second half looked like the Rams in the first half. So going forward, I hope that we're able to see that continue to build, right? Steichen in his first season as head coach. Anthony Richardson is a rookie. We have a lot of young people on this team, a lot of guys getting experience right now. But at the end of the day, we thought we could rely on the defense, and the defense let us down in a big way, right? They helped us get back into the game. They stepped up in the second half. But the first half was terrible. They could not stop anything that the Rams were doing. And then in overtime, that one drive looked like the first couple drives for the Rams when they were putting up touchdowns. So, overall, of course, with a loss, it's disappointing, especially with the way we came back, right? Storming back like that just to not be able to touch the ball in overtime. I honestly believe that if the Colts won the coin toss and got the ball in overtime, they would have scored a touchdown and won this game, right? It was that kind of game. Whichever offense got the ball last right there in that situation was going to be victorious. Unfortunately, ended up being the Rams. Unfortunately, that's 7 straight home losses for the Colts. Unfortunately, the rest of the division got wins. So we're sitting at 2-2. We have an advantage over the Texans, but the Jaguars have the advantage over us. So right now, the AFC South, it's a tight race, man. It's a really tight race. Probably going to be tight as the year goes on. The Texans look like they're tougher than people thought they would be. We're tougher than people thought we'd be. And then there's the Jaguars. And don't forget, next week we have reinforcements coming. I believe we play the Titans next week. Don't hold me to that. I have not looked at week 5. Been very concentrated on week 4. But I think we play the Titans. It's another home game. And possibly, maybe, getting Jonathan Taylor back. Maybe getting Jelani Woods back. Maybe getting Bernard Raymond back. Maybe getting Ryan Kelly back. Okay, we start getting healthy. Right? Like, could have had Bernard Raymond. Not having Bernard Raymond was huge. They kept putting Aaron Donald on Blake Freeland, and that's just not fair. Rookie in his first game, I would have done it too if I was the Rams because it was working. He was putting a lot of pressure on AR by going over there and going one-on-one with Blake Freeland. So need Bernard Raymond to come back, need Ryan Kelly to come back. We were better with them. So hopefully we get all these guys back coming up. Hopefully we can get JT inserted into the lineup, even if it is limited in the first game or two, right? But just to have him back on the field and have him be able to make plays for us would be nice. Take some pressure off of Zach Moss, take some pressure off of Anthony Richardson. You can give more touches to your running backs that way instead of having Anthony Richardson designed runs. It'd be nice if we could get to a place where You don't have to design runs for Anthony Richardson. It's just if it's there, he'll take it, right? So we'll see how that goes. But there's going to be a lot to talk about this week. Got a big game coming up. We're at 2-2. Unfortunately, I was hoping we were going to be 3-1, still have a little wiggle room there in the division, but now it's all going to matter, man. Got to step up if we're going to win more games, right? Got to take what we did in the second half, do that for 60 minutes, and start beating teams down from the offset. So I still like us. This is just a bump in the road, right? Bump in the road. But I think we have good coaching, have good players. We'll get better from this. The second half was absolutely electric. Okay, so I appreciate you stopping by for this post-game review after week 4. Don't forget to hit that sub button. Make sure you get notified of all the videos coming out. At some point, we'll have some film studies this week. Got a couple of things I want to get talking to you guys about this week. So again, hit that sub button. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.